Hello and welcome back to our channel. Well, this is Vanessa and Marek, and today we are going to talk about an archaeological site located in Lima City. The name of this place is Puruchuco, and Marek, as an archaeologist, is going to be helping us to understand the uses, the purposes given to this site that is also known as a palace, the Palace of Puruchuco. But we would like to call it better an administrative zone and an Inca residence because, well, we are not very sure about the use of this place as a palace per se. So we're going to talk about this site, and also we will take you back in time to the times when this site was built, not by Incas, actually by a culture that existed here in Lima before, the Ishma culture. So are you ready to start? Let's go.
Okay, my friend, this is an aerial photograph of the site of Puruchuco. So to start, let's put the location. Let's find ourselves in the location of Puruchuco. Okay, this is the province of Lima. You have here the port of Callao in the west, and in the east you see Ate. Ate is the district where Puruchuco is located. Next to the word Ate is Puruchuco, the archaeological site. Look at the location. It's in between the desert and the foothills of the Andes. It's around 500 meter high, and the distance from Puruchuco to the coastline is about 30 kilometers. So it's 1 day of walking from Puruchuco to the ocean. Puruchuco is located next of a channel that comes from the Rimac River, and it was a very specific climate for production of certain crops like chili, cotton, corn, and a variety of coca that nowadays don't exist anymore. Let's start with the name, Puruchuco. Puruchuco nowadays, but Puruchuco is the name that was given in the middle of the 19th century to this place. It comes from two Quechua words. Puru means feather, chucu means helmet. It's not a helmet, it's a headdress of feather that was found in that place. So that gives the name to the archaeological site. This is in the site museum that is next to the archaeological site, or very close to the archaeological site. Okay, so let's back to the first picture, and now I will explain you a little about the architecture of the place. First of all, I will give you the size of the place. It's around 60 meter length and 35 meter wide. Okay, this place was not built by the Incas, was built by the Ichma societies that lived in the valley of Rimac, of the valleys of Lima, between the years 1000 and 1400. This building was created around 1100 after Christ. It has Inca and Ichma elements. For example, the most characteristical Ichma element that have is the perimetrical wall, that is around the site, and the site that is this enclosure that is next to the main site is an Inca construction. This little construction is named Cayanca. Cayanca is the place where the people came to the site, for example, with llamas, so they can leave the llamas there as a parking lot, or if they came from far away, they can sleep there, spend the night, and came back in the other side, because the access to the site was very restricted. As you can see in the right hand side is a ramp that permit the access. Is only one access into the archaeological site. The site is divided very easy. We can divide in two parts. The upper part, where is the big square, is the public part, and the other part closer to us, you can divide in two. The upper part is the religious zone, and the lower part is the residential and storage zone of Puruchuco. Okay, this is the constructive technique we call tapial. Tapial is a technique from Ichmas. So this is the original structure from almost 1000 years ago, the walls. So we make a coffin with wood, and inside that kind of coffin or mold we put clay, stone, sand, water, and wait until it's dry, and we take off, the mold, and in that way the structure, all the walls get built. Now, the walls are very tall, around 5 meter high, and this is the access to Puruchuco side, the ramp. The ramp is a characteristical Ichma element pre-Inca. You can notice that there are a lot of stones, behind the place, but the Incas respect the original structures and the original constructions of the site, because they don't want to feel the people Ichma that live around like invaded or offended, on changing this construction. When you pass this ramp and turn left, you will be in the main square or plaza. This plaza was the public part of the construction, and in this place take a lot many ceremonies. Also the people pay the tributes, they left the tributes there, and also the Incas or the authorities give to the people that live around. Remember, there were no currency in those days, and the economy were based on the redistribution of goods. So they were very important, these ceremonies and rituals that taking place in this space, in order to maintain the good relationship between the rulers and the people who live close, because this is not a city, this is a palace and an administrative site, but the people live around, not inside. You enter more, entering the labyrinth of corridors, you will see a lot of Inca elements. Here I show you two. The stairs, in the Ichmas, for ascending to one level to the other, use ramps, but the stairs were used by the Incas. And in the room that is showing in the left part, you will see this very specific doorway with double frame. This is an Inca architectural element. This, if we cross the frame, we will be in a terrace. That terrace were used, for example, to dry crops, in order to maintain them for longer time. Very interesting are also the corridors. The corridors are very narrow. There's just one person can pass at the time. So the circulation inside the place were very strict regulated. So no many people can live or can walk inside Puruchuco. So this place was very, very special, and the access to them was very restricted. And here we can see the religious part, the upper part. We see interesting elements like the ramp, the original ramp from the Ichma times. But next to the ramp, we see niches. Those niches are definitely Inca element, because there is no niches in Ichma architecture in Lima. And you see next to the niches is another doorway with two windows. This is the religious part where different ceremonies take place, and we think that those niches can be used in two different ways. Some archaeology says that in there the Incas left the best crops as thanks, thanking to the sun, thanking to the gods, and wishing a good production. And the other one is related with shadows and light. It's a kind of calendar that, depending in which niche the sun came or arise, it's a different period or different important celebration during the year. So Ichma element, two Inca elements, and another Ichma element is here next to, in the same square, next to the doorway, is another interesting element. It's an arch. It's an arch. Through this arch we came back to the main patio. This arch is an original element from Ichma. We can see those arch in different places in Lima, and the room that is next to the arch, we suppose that is the room of the shaman or the priest, that controls those ceremonies. That priest could be an Ichma person. And in the place of the storage, we find a very interesting place. It's a farming of guinea pigs. The archaeologists find here a lot of poop or excrements of guinea pigs, so they suppose for sure this was a place for farming those animals, and those animals were sacrificed for festivities to feed the people that came in special occasions to to the square that we saw. So that's how the site looks inside, more than less. Very beautiful, a very interesting recreation.
So something very important to be mentioned at this point is that the site Puruchuco, which nowadays is a museum and is protected and is preserved by our National Institution of Culture, has an origin, a past that is not really so nice as the one we can see nowadays. For example, back in the 1940s, this is a picture of this place in 1944. We can see the damage caused to the walls of the site, caused to the archaeological complex in general. We used to have several other complexes around this one, and also many more in the whole valley of Rimac, where most of Lima is located. But as normal during the colonial times, early Republican times, these places were sacked, were looted, so there was no protection on them. So in the case of Puruchuco, lots was damaged, but we would say that approximately 70% of the site that you see nowadays standing is the original, and about 30% is restoration or reconstruction, actually. So you can see, for example, very close to the big circle sign there, the wall that is sort of like interrupted in that section. Nowadays we have it again, and this is due to the work of reconstruction that took place here in the 60s. Also, there is another section very close to the smallest circle. There's a wall, and then there's a little like chamber that you can see that is there's sort of like just part of one wall and also a little fragment of another one. But nowadays we have this site in really good condition after the restoration and reconstruction work. So that zone is also a very interesting location where we think the cameloids, the llamas of the people whom arrived from far distances, were placed, like a little stable. So and also you can see the agricultural zone around the complex. This place was a farmland, was a plantation field until not so long ago. So well, and the reconstruction of this site, restoration, reconstruction, and also the creation of the site museum of Puruchuco, were, let's say, the product of the work of a very important personality in the field of the archaeology here in Peru, Mr. Arturo Jimenez Borja. He was born in Peru, but in a territory that was in quite a big conflict during the times of his early childhood. Tacna. Tacna was taken by the Chileans after the War of the Pacific, as also other territories of the south of Peru, Arica and Tarapacá. Tacna remained also in the possession of the Chileans until the year 1929. And Mr. Jimenez Borja was born in the year 1908. So during the time he was born in a territory that was basically Chilean, in this transition of being fully Chilean, but Tacna returned to Peru after 1929, and I think this early moments in his life of being exposed to such tragic situation made him also be very proud of his Peruvian culture. And not just that, also he identified as descendant of a local Curaca. Curaca was a ethnic leader, an indigenous leader of this zone of Tacna. So this was something that for him was a reason of his pride towards not just being Peruvian, also his indigenous heritage, no? So, but well, he left Tacna very young, and eventually he came to Lima, and he studied here in the city of Lima to become a doctor. So he was originally a doctor, but he never forgot his passion for archaeology and history. So then he became a writer, painter, museologist, and ethnologist. And this, which was initially sort of like a hobby, became his passion for most of his life, actually. And he's so important in the archaeology of his time. He was, for example, one of the first people that standed up for the reconstruction of temples, although nowadays reconstruction is something sort of like banned, let's say, in the archaeologist groups. Nowadays nobody reconstructs. Archaeologists restored, which is something different. Reconstruction is recreating something that we don't know if it was there before. But during the time he studied to become a reconstructor, he went to the United States, he went to Mexico also. He was trying to understand how to do this properly, and he studied this. So when he returned to Peru in the late 50s, early 60s, he decided to start with the reconstruction of several sites that were in really bad shape. So one of those places was Puruchuco, and he also got involved in other major archaeological sites and archaeological works, such as, for example, the one of Pachacamac and also the one of Huayamarca, located in San Isidro district. So also one last thing to say is that this man lived a long life, very fruitful actually, and he died in the year 2000 when he was 91 years old. So, well, indeed, one of the most important personalities of the archaeology, as I said before, controversial, his works, but not for that reason not remembered. He also is nowadays buried in the archaeological site of Puruchuco, so you can visit his grave if you go to that site now. No, so and it was his last wish, by the way. So here you can see a picture of it might be about the 50s of the site before the reconstruction, and notice also how much of the original was there, and also the way how it looks nowadays is impeccable. So of course we can notice that there were zones that were completely gone that have been added, especially the perimeter walls that are nowadays around the site that is sometimes called palace, but it's basically a residence and also an administrative site. And you can see also in the distance on the hill, by the way, this is the Mayorazgo Hill, so in the foot hill section we have another complex that is gone completely nowadays. So in that complex also Kippus were discovered. Kippu is a pre-Hispanic counting system, but I think it was even more. Many archaeologists believe that it was not just an accountable, let's say, piece material, but instead it recorded also history. So well, some Kippus were discovered there, the knotted system, the Kippus. And there's also very close to that complex a cemetery. So Mr. Jimenez Borja, he found different mummies, bundles near that zone. And here you can see also a picture of how the cemetery looks like, and also we still have some images, some original remains of the cemetery in that site. And this is a picture of a bundle that was one of the many discovered in that site. So also a really interesting detail is that this bundle has actually a mummy inside in fetal embryonic position, and the head you see on top is a fake head. It's not actually the real place where the head of the individual is. Also, this is a burial type from the Ishma times, and also seems that eventually was continued during the Inca period too. We have also queros. Quero is an Inca tradition. These are cups or vessels, sometimes made of clay, sometimes made of wood, and in fewer occasions made of gold or silver. Also in these queros, the leaders used to toast during ceremonies, drinking chicha. Chicha, the fermented drink made of corn. And this is a kippu. As you can see, the kippus have knots, and the knots also have colors. So the colors, the amount of knots, the size, the length of the cord were related also with some specific like informations or ideas. And we see also the site museum. This is the place where the collection discovered in the archaeological site, these elements discovered in the archaeological site nowadays are shown. And this museum is also one of the possibly less visited archaeological sites we have in Lima. And it's really sad because this is the first archaeological complex that had a site museum in the whole country, and this was thanks to Mr. Arturo Jimenez Borja, creator of the museum, the site museum, and also creator of the reconstruction of the site. So, well, I hope you enjoy this lecture and hope that you come to visit Puruchuco in the future if you visit Lima. The site museum is open pretty much every day of the week, and the admission fee is only 5 soles, so that's less than $2 American. I will be leaving below the information of this site and also the different ways you can contact directly this museum. Well, if you would like to join a tour in this place, but virtually, that would be super fantastic. We are hosting virtual tours to Puruchuco on virtual trips, also known nowadays as heygo.com. So if you would like to see this place, please go there, and we'll hope to have you in one of our tours in Puruchuco or in any other place in Lima. If you would like to follow us on Instagram or maybe on Facebook or here in YouTube, you can find us under Adventurous Travel Guide. So, well, hope to see you around. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias, and until the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.